right, I'm live. I don't have anybody on yet. I didn't expect to. Um, I'm wondering if now you know what? Welcome. Hopefully, I'm able to save this stream, and those of you who come on later or want to hear what I said will be able to view what I have to say. And obviously, I didn't expect to have any kind of large audience. My name is Samuel Bruce, and welcome to this stream, and welcome to my YouTube channel, which has been a channel. If you look at any of the past videos, I'm all over the place with my interest over the years, from the times when I was really into working out and fitness and stuff, something that certainly I have to get back to being a big fan of UFC, my new fish hobby that I've acquired over the last 7 months or so. But this stream is discussing the election. This stream is discussing a lot of pushback that I get as a person who pushes third-party voting, particularly the Green Party, particularly voting for Joe Stein, as opposed to voting for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. I get a lot of pushback from a lot of my elders, my brothers in Christ. I'm a Christian. Some of my family members, older family members, who want to go toe to toe, want to debate, whether or not the move for Black people and for all people is to support the Democrats as opposed to looking at third parties. Oftentimes, when you start pushing third parties, people say, "Oh, you're going to get Trump elected because you're voting for a third party." Is that valid? Should we care? These are questions that we have to ask. We have to remember this 2024 election is an election between an unelected nominee, someone that the DNC just handpicked to replace Joe Biden after they fixed the primary for Joe Biden. The Democratic primary this year was not an open primary. I can think of off the top of my head at least 4 people who tried to run to challenge Joe Biden for the nomination, and the Democratic National Convention blocked them out, prevented them from being able to fairly run for the seat. And it's not something that Republicans haven't also done in 2020. They fixed it for Trump, and that's not right. But in time past, incumbent nominees were openly challenged, and allowed to openly challenge incumbents. And I want to say 1980, when was it 80 or 82? When Jimmy Carter was the incumbent candidate, Ted Kennedy ran against him in an open primary and was allowed to challenge him and got a good amount of support, and he was allowed to do that. But the Democratic National Convention didn't allow Marianne Williams, Dean Phillips, Cenk Uygur, Robert Kennedy Jr. to primary Joe Biden, to fairly be able to say, hey, I don't believe that you've done well as the leader of the Democratic Party, as the president for the last 4 years. I have great disagreements with you, and give them a fair hearing. The Republicans had an open primary, even though the former president, Donald Trump, wanted a third crack at getting elected. They had an open primary. They had debates. Those were aired on our mainstream media. And you got to hear from those other Republican candidates. And at the end of the day, through a democratic process, they chose to have Trump be the head of the Republican ticket for a third straight election cycle. That's democracy. That is the democracy that the Democrats, along with their media arm, essentially all of the mainstream media, that's not Fox, is liberal media. They go along to get along with the Democratic Party. They spout their talking points. They work in cahoots with them, and they manufacture consent for those of you who consider yourself to be liberal. Even some of you, you consider yourself to be progressive. You think in your mind that because you've been a Democratic voter that you're some sort of on the left. That's what you think of yourself. Of being on the left. I'm on the left, and I don't support Democrats. And I don't believe that someone who tells me that they are a Democrat is a leftist. The Democratic Party is a pro-capitalist party. The Republican Party is a pro-capitalist party. Their whole framing is about supporting capitalism and these capitalists that have continued to claw away from working class people their ability to go out and to be able to work and to earn a living that is sufficient for them to afford houses and housing, to be able to afford food, to have a decent standard of living, the standard of living that people a generation earlier, a lot of my older family members and church brothers who are trying to convince me that Black people, the move is to support Democrats in this election. And I'm here to tell you that is not the answer. It is not the answer to continue to support Democrats. You know, I've listened a lot, maybe 3 or 4 times, to Malcolm X's 1964 speeches. He gave this speech, I want to say, at least 3 times at 3 different audiences. And you know, Malcolm X was a Muslim, and he gave these speeches in mixed audiences with Muslims, Christians, atheists, whoever. This was not about these were not religious speeches. These were speeches about organizing around elections. And the name of the speech, you can look it up on YouTube or anywhere, was The Ballot or the Bullet. The Ballot or the Bullet, 1964. And he talked about how 1964 was the year of the ballot or the bullet. And the reason I've been bringing this speech up is because when I first heard it, and I started to listen to what he was saying and considering it in a 2024 context, it blew my mind. 2024, 1964, that's 60 years, 6 decades. That's that's 2 generations of people, you know, who could have had an impact on this world. That was that generation that was then, and then 2 generations to come after. Folks voting and trying to vote to have their lives be and the lives of their children to be improved, and to be able to feel good about the direction of the country, and the decisions that these people that we've elected to represent us, the place and where they had sent us. And even back then, there were, obviously Malcolm, Martin, and a lot of the revolutionaries from that time, James Baldwin, so many to name. Stokely Carmichael, who's also goes. I'm calling him Stokely Carmichael. I hate the fact that now I'm not remembering the name that he chose, because that I respect folks being able to change their names. But the point I'm making is that there were revolutionaries then that were not just satisfied with the status quo, that had looked and were saying, the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, essentially the same critique that I have today. Even back then, they were able to say, these guys are mostly just the same, if not just as bad, if not even worse than the Republicans. And you want me to believe that they're on my side? I just remember Malcolm saying, like, a Democrat ain't nothing but a Dixiecrat. A Democrat ain't nothing but a Dixiecrat. He talked about how they want you to believe that they are for you when they had like a supermajority in 64 in the Senate, that would allow like a filibuster-proof majority to be able to pass whatever legislation that they wanted, So the things that they were fighting for, voting rights, or what have you, all the things that they were fighting for to stop the redlining, stop all the stuff that was, central things that they were fighting for in the 60s, that essentially, if the electoral solution, if the Democrat solution was truly the way, if that was going to get things done for us, they had everything that they needed in 64 to do it, and they had not done it. And so he was heavily critical. That was 1964. It's been 60 years, and it's not as if they haven't had other opportunities to grant you your rights via legislation, and they just choose to not do it. One of the things that's on the ballot this year is whether you're pro-choice or you're pro-life. We know what happened in 2021. I believe the Dobbs decision came down, and essentially the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, which had been the Supreme Court ruling from 50 years ago that granted women the right to choose whether or not to have autonomy over their body as far as reproduction, because there are reasons, medical reasons, that women would choose to end a pregnancy, right? It could be dangerous to them. The life of the child that's in their womb might not be viable, and it could, the child may be born with all kinds of deformities, maybe, and these things are picked up. There's reasons out there that I think that even the most hardcore pro-life folks would say, in actuality, it might, while I believe in, that life occurs at conception, there are some mitigating circumstances where I can understand why somebody might have to make a difficult choice to not continue a pregnancy, and some of you may think that you should never, and some people might say, you're playing God, right? And I am a Christian man, and I do have my own personal beliefs on these things. But what overwhelms my personal belief about what is right and wrong is the fact that, other people's decisions are not my business, right? I shouldn't be trying to get legislation passed that affects what other people are able to do and the decisions that they make with their doctors and with their families. And that's what overwhelms my personal beliefs, is that I have a personal belief that I need to mind my business when it comes to what's going on with women and their doctors and their families, and whether or not to bring life into this world, so that overwhelms any personal beliefs that I would have. And so that's one of the number one issues that they want a lot of these older Black folks who are lecturing Black people about voting for the Democrats, that these are things that they're trying to send folks to the polls for. And I don't agree that that we should go to the polls and vote for Democrats because they're as if they're going to do something about Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade is that, and it being overturned, is the reason why you should reject the Democratic Party and go third party. If you want me to be frank and spell it out for you, 50 years 50 years. Roe versus Wade was not the law. That wasn't the law. Democrats never enacted legislation to make Roe versus Wade the law of the land. That was a Supreme Court decision. And so what Democrats have done for 50 years is to hold your rights over your head, to prod you to continually be forced to vote for them, minus any improvements in your life, because Roe versus Wade. Your right to make your own choices, to have autonomy over your body. Roe versus Wade. You got to continue to vote for us because of Roe versus Wade. Why wouldn't you actually make that legislation? Why wouldn't somebody promise to make Roe versus Wade legislation? Did anybody ever run on promising to make Roe versus Wade the law of the land? It was 50. You have 50 years. How many people have been president in the last 50 years? I'm only 42. But you know, I have history books. I got Wikipedia. Let me think. So 42. So I was born in 82. I believe at the time Ronald Reagan was president, and certainly he was a Republican. So that's not something that would be on his agenda, right? But who was president before Ronald Reagan? Let me think about that. Oh, Jimmy Carter? Was he a Republican? No, right? He was a Democrat, right? So Jimmy Carter was president before Ronald Reagan, right? And before Jimmy Carter was Ford and Nixon, right? If I'm not mistaken, Nixon had to resign. Ford, if I'm not mistaken, lost because obviously, like, you know, people were incensed at him pardoning Nixon, and so he didn't get to run again or to win, I should say. They made him a one-term president. And then Jimmy Carter, a Democrat, and then it was Reagan, like I mentioned, and then you had, after Reagan, you had Bush for one term, the first Bush, and then after that you had Clinton. Was Clinton a Republican? 8 years, right? And I believe many times received at least once or twice during his 8-year presidency, his party controlled the House and the Senate. Did they protect a woman's right to choose during the Clinton administration? No, they didn't enact their legislation. They just continued to hold those type of things over your head to get you to continue to go back and to vote for them. Did they improve your life during the Clinton administration? Did they make it easier? Did they make it sustainable so that your children will continue to have a chance at the American dream just like you have? Did they do that? Or did he enact NAFTA that gutted union jobs, sent jobs overseas, sent jobs to Mexico, and made the ability for working class Americans to have a one-income household support a lifestyle where you could own a home, you could own 2 cars, you could take a vacation or even 2 on a union job, or just having a solid working class, right? Having an economy that worked for more people, right? And so when I hear my older Black family, friends, loved ones, church members lecturing at and sharing these posts of these older Black folks lecturing younger Black folks for not voting for Democrats, or, you know, some people will pigeonhole you that if you're not voting for Democrats, you're trying to get Trump elected. And I'm not trying to get Trump elected as much as I'm trying to see Kamala Harris lose. And I'm trying to see Kamala Harris lose. My number one issue that you're never ever, you can argue to your blue in the face, you will never ever get me to vote for Kamala Harris or any Democrat ever again because of Palestine, because of what they did to Palestine. Don't tell me about any other. Y'all know I was talking about Roe versus Wade, and I'm moving off of that. But my number one issue, the thing that I will not betray, is the Palestinian people. I will not betray them. We've watched for the last year a live stream genocide that was funded by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, Democrats. They sent Israel all the munitions, the weaponry, the money in order for them to have this genocidal campaign against the people of Gaza. At the same time as they continue to have settlers, people come from other countries who are Jewish, to move into the West Bank and continue to illegally steal the Palestinian people in the West Bank's homes and their land, which is illegal according to international law, to move your population into another country or territories, land, right? So I will never vote for Kamala Harris. I will never vote for Democrats again. Let's be clear, because you cannot watch the evil that they wrought and provide them a mandate. They are in power right now. They could have at any moment stopped what was going on. I've been posting a lot of stream of consciousness, a lot of people who have just provided so many powerful messages on my Facebook page, and I have a Twitter, and I honestly don't want the two to meet, because honestly, they're two different audiences, right? And I've come across, and I've been speaking to mostly strangers on Twitter. On Facebook, it's a lot of family and friends. I try to be definitely more PG rated, and I want my YouTube channel to be as PG as possible. I don't want to have a whole bunch of profanity and swearing and stuff like that. But I just want to push back at the idea that we should vote for Democrats. Democrats don't take care of our needs here at home, and they're just like the Republicans when it comes to their foreign policy. And when you look at what Democrats and Republicans agree on, it's nothing important. They don't agree on anything important that would actually improve the lives of their constituents at home. And they don't agree on peace that would, lift the world away from the cloud of the United States empire. The United States has over 800 military bases all around the world. And so when you see, it says live chat is currently unavailable. Okay, I just noticed that. So when you see our politicians, saying people, jeopardizing American lives, talking about these Middle East countries that are adversarial to Israel, it's like I hear people say, like, hey, the nerve of Iran, Iraq, and some of these other countries to put their country so close to our military bases. you know what the point is that that's their land. That's where they live. They didn't ask us to go pitching up military industrial complex shops all around their country to try to intimidate, to just be in position to wage war against their countries. They didn't ask for that, right? So we have a lot of nerve, Democrats, Republicans, and supporters of both those parties. Let's be clear. I want to be clear about who I am, because some of the videos that I plan on responding to on my channel moving forward are from folks that, they're looking at this election and those who don't support Kamala, they're saying you're automatically supporting Trump. And again, I'm not automatically supporting Trump. I'm supporting Joe Stein, a Green Party candidate who's for peace, planet, and people. That's who I'm supporting. And if you were to tell me that, let's say I was like the mythical scenario, of a voter, this voter is all powerful because in some mythical world that doesn't exist in reality, they are the final vote, and the score is all tied, right? The score is all tied. Imagine that. The score is all tied. You got Kamala, tied with Trump, right? And this vote goes. Whoever gets this vote wins the election, Kamala or Trump. And then that person walks into the booth and they vote for Jill Stein. So what happened? Did they provide a vote for Kamala? No. Did they provide a vote for Donald Trump? No. Right? So their score is still tied, right? Why wouldn't you cast the deciding vote? Why wouldn't you use your vote to give power to one of these two people? I won't I wouldn't cast that vote for Kamala. I wouldn't cast that vote for Donald, because I don't endorse even one of their candidacies, right? In my mind, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are traitors. I want you to hear that again. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are traitors, right? And it makes me angry that not only that you guys, you vote for who you want to vote for, but when you have the nerve to get on your to use your media platform to tell people, hey, support this person, right? Support them. They're for you. They're for me. They're traitors. Do you understand? They are traitors. Every time they speak and they talk about the nation of Israel and they talk about some of these other foreign countries, they're talking about how we need to support them and send all kind of money for them. But then when we have problems at home, we're running out of money. Oh, apply for $700 when your life had just been turned upside down. So they have nothing for their constituents, but they pledge fealty to foreign nations like Israel. Israel, even before they were at war, during the Obama administration, they signed something where we would give Israel $3 billion a year just cause. Just cause, you know what Israel has? They have free healthcare for all of their citizens, right? Once their citizens leave whatever is the equivalent to high school, they go to university for free in Israel. Meanwhile, here at home, even with insurance, right? When you see some of the bills, right? If I was to go find you bills from times that I have to take my kids to the emergency room, where I went to urgent care, the bills that come after the fact of my insurance, right? When people in foreign countries see America, they're like, man, that's crazy. Actually, I had a friend, online friend, who told me, like, that she was from the Netherlands, and she told me, we have a joke about Americans, and she's like, I don't know if you want to hear it, you might be sensitive to it. And I told her, I'm not patriotic in a dumb sense, right? If you have a joke and if there's truth to it, I have to swallow it. And at the end of the day, the joke was that she said that America is a third world country with a Gucci belt. and I asked her to elaborate, and so she said, well, you guys' life seems very expensive to live. Your country doesn't provide you any of these things, healthcare, free schooling, right? Our world has changed, as I mentioned earlier in the stream. It's not easy to support a family, to have a house on a single family income, right? There was a time in this country where with a high school diploma, you could go out and find a factory job and make a wage that allowed you to own a home, to have 2 cars, to go on a vacation or 2 in a year, right? To support your family with a single income. Mom at home, mom able to raise the children and to see to their welfare, right? And we don't live in that world anymore, right? People are starving out here, having 2 parents, full-time workers and stuff, and I can speak to those personal realities. And so it's for all of those reasons. And I've gone long, and I don't think I even got to all the points I wanted to, but I'm gonna stop in about a minute or so, and I will come back on because I wanted to respond. And probably it's gonna be multiple videos, but I want to take apart democratic messaging from my older family members and friends. These videos, I'm gonna figure out how to show these videos. I watch a lot of YouTube presenters, and I see them oftentimes pull up right next to them a video that they want their viewers to look at, hear, and then they provide the rebuttal. And I want to be able to do the same thing because one of my church brothers sent me this 7 or 8 minute clip this morning that actually finally was the straw that inspired the straw that broke the camel's back. Because I saw President Obama lecturing some Democratic organizers saying, like, you know, they don't have the same kind of enthusiasm that they had when he was running, and he was kind of, you know, chiding them for a lack of enthusiasm for supporting Kamala, right? And so I want to take these type of arguments apart. I had one of my uncles also sent me, you know, some Democratic Black voters who are trying to, you know, provide messaging for why Black people should support Kamala Harris. And I want to take those things apart. But I also want to be clear. I don't believe that because I don't believe that you shouldn't support Trump, support Harris means that I think you should support Trump. But I do believe that you should want Kamala Harris to lose the election because she's the vice president of the incumbent party right now. And during her party's rule, the United States funded, aided, and abetted a genocide in Gaza, and we should not forgive them. We should not provide a mandate to them, right? These two ruling class parties, they're not for working class people. And my theory of the case is that we should never provide that ruling class a mandate. I'm not saying that when Trump gets in that he's not going to try to do terrible things. I mean, but you know, again, but what I am saying is that Harris is in power right now and she's doing terrible things, right? And so we should want her to lose. We should want her and her party to have hard conversations and hopefully come back different the next time. We know they won't because they've lost before 2016, and they didn't have the hard conversations. They didn't actually start to address the reasons why Hillary Clinton lost, right? They doubled down. They got us to fear Trump through their media arms, and we kind of we took it another way. We took power away from Trump, and that was and I actually agree with the fact that Trump lost that election, even though, you know, now we're dealing with this devastating administration that has been awful, probably the worst presidency in my lifetime, the Biden administration. But I just think that these two ruling classes, until we're able to get a third party to get a foothold, and maybe even a fourth party, you know, why is it that we have choice, we have democracy when we go to the supermarket, right? When I go to the supermarket, I got democracy about the cereal that I buy. I can get Cheerios, I can get Frosted Flakes, I can get Apple Jack, I can get all these different things, right? But when it comes to the ballot box, I don't have a democracy, right? It's red or blue. Choose. It's like, wait a minute. There's no other choices. What is going on there? Red or blue? Just choose. It's like, oh man, you know, this one girl posted this great video about, you know, gasoline or nail polish. Which drink should be the drink for America? That was a fantastic video. I posted that on my stories not too long ago. I don't want to choose between gasoline and nail polish. I want something that's gonna be good for me to actually drink. You know, and that's the choice that Americans have been facing. So again, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna start using YouTube to talk about some of the stuff that some of the other content creators shared that you know, I feel are strong arguments as to why you should stay out of the duopoly. the Democrats and the Republicans. You know, they're the supporters of capitalism and the abuse of the few over the many, right? I don't believe we have an actual functioning democracy in America. And the reason I say that is because we vote for these people, they get into power, and then they ignore us, you know? They enact the will of the people who funded their campaigns, right? They don't enact the will of their constituents, right? They're not serving us. And that's why, you know, after 8 years of Reagan, you allowed one term for his vice president, then you threw him out of power. And then you, after 8 years of Clinton, you didn't allow his vice president to be elected. Maybe you did, but Bush got in there, right? Why? What if the 8 years under Clinton were so great? Why would George Bush stand a chance against Clinton's vice president? After 8 years of Bush, if that was so great, why would we get Obama? It wasn't great, right? So we got Obama. So after 8 years of the first black president, hope and change, right? Hope and change, a very talented politician, Barack Obama. He said a lot without saying anything. He acknowledges in his book, The Promised Land, that he stood for nothing. He was just a platitude machine. He was just very eloquent, right, on the mic. And he enacted very little, right? He going back to politicians that promised that Roe versus Wade would become the law of the land. He promised it. He's the one I was alluding to. But then as soon as you gave him power, he said that no, that wasn't going to be his priority. And obviously, we know he didn't do anything to enact Roe versus Wade. The Democrats are just as much to blame for Roe versus Wade getting overturned as the Republicans, right? During his administration, Obama, he had 8 years. He had a old justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who liberals laud. They love her. And if you want to blame one singular person for the reason that if you're a liberal in a red state, you don't have autonomy over your body, you can thank Ruth Bader Ginsburg, because Obama went to Ruth Bader Ginsburg and was trying to get her to do what a lot of the older justices do when the party that put them in the Supreme Court are in power. They will essentially resign, retire. I think actually it's called retire. They'll retire and allow somebody from their party, since they're in power now, to to replace them, right? So that when the election happens, you don't lose that seat to the other party. Did Ruth Bader Ginsburg do that? Did she retire even though Obama went to her? No, she didn't. You know what she did? She would be for hubristic reasons. For hubris, she wanted to have a woman Supreme Court justice to be replaced by the first woman president, because she, like so many liberals, thought that Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in over Donald Trump, right? And so she wanted Hillary Clinton to be the person to replace her on the Supreme Court. Well, we know how that went, right? Donald Trump won the election. She dies during his term, and he's able to, he wasn't a woman, but he replaced her with a woman, right? Aren't you liberals happy, right? Representation matters, right? No, you're not happy, right? Why? Because he took because a liberal justice died, and he got a conservative justice, Amy Coney Barrett, to replace her. That's like I believe who was it that was replaced by Clarence Thomas? Was it Thurgood Marshall? I'm trying to remember. A black liberal Supreme Court justice who most Black America approved of, got replaced by a Black conservative justice, and you all cannot stand him. I just find that to be hilarious as somebody who is not a Democrat, somebody who is not a Republican. I'm an independent. I just find it just tickles me that essentially, like, the Republicans on those two different fronts kind of like poked you in your eye, teased at you, because oftentimes you hear from a lot of like Democrats about representation of your elected officials, like the superficial representation, being a woman, being a person of color, mattering. I honestly don't believe that representation of who's in office matters. I believe that if your policy is not going to positively impact those groups in any way, then what's the point of having you in power, right? What was the point of Black people getting to see Obama in office, right? During Obama's administration, Black wealth decreased. Let me say that again for you. During Obama's administration, remember, he came in 09. We were in the midst of the Great Recession. And what was like one of the keystone things that Obama did, right? He provided bailouts for the auto industry. He provided bailouts for the big banks who had brought about this economic downturn. And he provided bailouts for them while throwing, hundreds of thousands of people out of their houses. So during the 8 years of the Obama administration, Black wealth in this country decreased, right? So when you look back at that, do you think it was good that we elected him to be the first Black president of the United States? Or would it have been better if you could go back and fix it to just get some white guy in there if Black wealth would have increased over that 8-year period? You tell me, what would you choose, right? Would you choose to be able to change the fact that Obama became the first Black president, and we had some, just like we had for the first 43 presidents, we just got another white guy, right? But under that white guy, Black wealth had gone up during that 8-year period of time, right? I'm going to choose the latter, right? Because the having Black places in high places, if it's not going to if those people are not coming with a Black agenda that will positively impact us, what's it good for? It's not good for anything, right? All right, so I got so much more I want to discuss, and I'm completely out of time. I'm gonna have to stop it here. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make these videos more digestible, because I know many of you are not gonna want 45 minutes, but or maybe you will. I don't know. I mean, this is the internet. You can consume what I've said and offer agreement or rebuttal as you will at your leisure, right? But these are where I'm standing. I'm not for Trump. I'm not for Kamala. I'm for Jill Stein, right? She's not a Black woman. She's a white woman, but she has a Black agenda, right? She has reparations on her as one of her policies. Kamala doesn't have that, right? She wants to end the war in Ukraine. She wants to end the war, these wars that Israel is waging in the Middle East. Kamala says, Israel is our ally. We have to support the Israeli people. Why? Why do none of these journalists? I know why, because they're all co-opted. They're traders, just like Kamala and Donald are traders, right? Why don't they provide feedback and say a pushback and say, why? What is the benefit to your constituents with our government sending all of this money to Israel and the Ukraine? What benefit do we get from that? I can't find a good reason, right? There's not a good reason for us to be supporting a genocide, right? It's evil, right? Our government is supporting evil, and people are in my messages trying to tell me that I should provide a mandate for that. No, we should punish that at the ballot box. We should allow her to fall, right, and send a message that we do not support genocide, right? One of the great messages, as I'm closing here, that I shared not too long ago was from Kim Iverson. And she said she's a great YouTube. She rumbles. She does it all. She broadcasts, I think, at 8 o'clock Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And she said she always wondered how folks supported the Holocaust, right? How did it happen? But she says, hey, we witnessed this a year of a live stream genocide, and now she understands. And so do I, right? Because you guys have seen what our government has done in providing Israel with what they needed to carry out this heinous genocide. And you have the, as Stephen A. Smith would say, the unmitigated gall to try to convince people, to try to shame people into voting for the person who allowed this to happen, who sent the money, who provided the political cover for this to happen. You want us to vote for that same party that just did that? The person who was second in power, you want us to vote her into power? You want us to provide her a mandate to continue to do what she's doing? Because that's what she signaled that she will do. She said, hey, I'm going to continue to do everything Joe Biden did. I know that got to burn some of y'all. Y'all seen that when she was on The View, and they asked her how would her administration, if she was the president the last 4 years, have been different from Biden? And she said nothing. She said essentially the only thing that would be different between Harris administration and the Biden-Harris administration is that she would have a Republican as one of her people that she appoints to one of these positions, whether it's the Department of Energy, Education, Secretary of State. They would be in her administration. She would have a Republican in her administration. But you want me to vote for her for fear of Trump. You guys have to stop voting out of fear, or stop recognizing that the Democratic Party is evil, and then trying to tell people to vote for that lesser evil. As I close, I'm going to reference another video that I posted where a young lady, I don't even know who she is. This was the first time I see her, but she made the great point that the lesser evil today is more evil than the persons we thought were the greater evil back in the day. And she talked about how in 1982, when Israel invaded Lebanon and killed about 10,000 people, that Ronald Reagan got on the phone and called up Menachem Begin, who was Israel's then prime minister, and told him to cut it out or we're cutting support. And Israel did just that, right? But Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and sellouts like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez want us to believe that this administration has been working tirelessly for a ceasefire. No, they haven't. They have allowed it to happen. They could have called up at any moment and told Israel to cut it out or you won't have the weapons to protect yourself, right? Not only will you not be able, you just can't do it because Israel is our nanny state. They are a welfare state. The only reason they have what they have is because America, the UK, and other countries like that give it to them. If we didn't give them these weapons of war, they would not have been able to kill over 240,000 Palestinians per the Lancet, right? They wouldn't have been able to do that, right? So we are responsible for that. American government is an accessory to all of Israel's crimes this last year, right? And so we can't provide the ruling parties a mandate by allowing the party that was in power another term, right? We need to allow the pendulum to swing to let the ruling classes, both of them, both sides know that we do not consent. We do not consent. Don't be a coward. You survived 4 years of Donald Trump, right? But as that gentleman, and you, those of you on my Facebook page know, you've seen it. 240,000 Palestinians did not survive 4 years of Joe Biden. So don't put Kamala in power when she has told you to your face, and you guys who are pushing Kamala know this, right? You wanted to pretend like, oh, maybe she'll be different. She's come out in every interview that she's given and told you, I'm not going to be different in any way. And you know that. Any of you who have listened to her know that. She said, I wouldn't do a thing different. So that means that 240,000, she owns that. Those 240,000 slain Palestinians, she owns that. And if you vote for her, you are providing a mandate for what she did. And I will not consent to that. I won't do it. And I don't know how you could have the moral cowardice to do it. You all be well. I will start posting a lot more, pushing back at these black bourgeoisie that try to funnel you every 4 years to go back to vote for Democrats again. I think we should never vote for Democrats again. And let's be clear, I don't think we should vote for Republicans either. We need to look elsewhere, and we need to organize in our communities for the things that we need. You all be well. God bless.